the life force of your bond. A power like light itself, unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 164. I am your host, Element 7.
And I'm Darth Choco. And yeah, it's been a week, man. Star Wars fans were eating. There's so much stuff was popping off. Oh man. It's the best time to be a fan, for sure.
So this week the trailer dropped for The Acolyte. We are going to talk about that in a second. And we also are going to talk about the latest episode of The Bad Batch 308.
Ram is how we joined the Dyad Squadron.
Thank you for another... how many months is it? I can't see it. Thanks for being a member of the Dyad Squad, Rams Howe. Appreciate the support.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about Bad Batch 308, or Season 3, Episode 8. And then we are going to take some hot takes that I've gathered from X, and we'll see how we feel about them. Lots of hot takes to go over. Logan Singleton, shout out to TikTok side. What are you talking about today? We're going to be talking about The Acolyte and The Bad Batch and go over some hot takes. Shout out to MP on the YouTube side. Daxon says, so pumped, the dark side shall cast out the light and something dark side.
Terrible.
That's terrible. Daxon, man, I have some quotes from Path of Destruction that I don't know about the dark side, man. Seems like an endless loop to me. But anyway, we are joined by Xanatos 1138 parentheses David parentheses. How's it going, David?
All right, how are you guys?
Good. You got to get those parentheses in there, you know?
Why don't you introduce yourself, let everybody know where they can find you on the socials.
I am Xanatos 1138 on all social media, TikTok mostly, and I have been working the last few weeks, especially I've been working with Nerd Initiative and putting out articles, putting out videos for them. You can check out their TikTok as well. I am in a couple of them.
Awesome. Choco, what's up with you?
It's been, life is insane. That's all. That's really all I can say. It has been insane in bad ways, personally, but in great ways, Star Wars wise. Also interesting ways. Just very interesting things popping off, especially in the community.
You got examples?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the big things that came about was, you know, we had the investors meeting, and we got to actually read what Disney had filed with the SEC, and got to get some definitive numbers that on Star Wars they have made $12 billion. And that's their profit on there, which is actually an insane amount for 12 years. So any thought that Star Wars is dead is truly imbecilic, and that narrative does need to go away. And then there was also a little bit of infighting at Disney for the second time. And why is the guy's name not coming to me? But he was trying to do it. Get himself placed. Wanted a board seat. This time he wanted 3 board seats. 2 years ago he tried it and just wanted a single one. And lost the bid. And one of the big people who stepped up was their largest shareholder, which is George Lucas.
Yes.
And so then, talking about how he believes in the vision that he sees in that team. Also proving that George Lucas isn't anti anything. So I'm curious because all the same grifters then turned on George Lucas, even though, like, didn't you all say George Lucas was about to buy Star Wars? Like, what's going on here? I don't know. It was just funny to me.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions as I reorder things. There we go. There's a lot of misconceptions on the side of, or the business side of Disney in general. Lots of, over the past couple of years, lots of people getting fired, not getting fired. Lots of conflict between executive producer and president. And more often than not, actually always, they're wrong. And, you know, we think about George Lucas being the largest shareholder in Disney and coming in and be like, no, I support Iger in all of this. It's like, I thought that he would, I thought he would, you know, oust him and be like, no, you're ruining my baby. And this is one of the hot takes that I posted on X recently, was like, he's the largest shareholder of Disney, and he continues to be on the sets of every project. He's there still caring for his baby. Is he heavily involved? No, he's still enjoying retirement. But like, people need to stop putting forth or positing notions into the cosmic force that George Lucas is feels disrespected, B, feels betrayed. You know, obviously there was that Charlie Rose interview, but that was back in 2015. It's just like, how do you feel about selling off your IP?
What's interesting about the feeling disrespected thing that people quote, it wasn't George Lucas saying that. George Lucas didn't say that. Bob Iger said that he thought that George might have felt that way in his book, Ride of a Lifetime, which is the Bob Iger book of how he, you know, rose to where he is now. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, even that just gets misquoted a lot. It's the world is a lot different when you like look at sources and facts and information.
Absolutely. Logan Singleton asks, why is there no live chat on YouTube? Because we're going to do it like this. Lowrider says, yeah, the fact that people are struggling to accept that George has nothing to do with Star Wars anymore. I wouldn't say he has nothing to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, he's not writing stuff. He's sitting in, but it's okay.
I mean, as much as like, you know, as much as like a creator would be invited to sit in on the set of something, it's like, obviously everything goes through the CCO, Dave Filoni, in terms of development and storytelling, but he's there to like sip his coffee, his morning coffee, and be like, all right, what are you guys doing now? It's like, I would love to do that. If I had ever created something as big as Star Wars and then sold it for billions of dollars, my day at the office would be going in and seeing what they're doing, just be like, man, this is all so cool, and then go back home and sleep. And I feel like that's what he does. He doesn't really care about the larger discourse, you know. I think he's done with it, and I think he deserves the rest from it.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of research on the making of Star Wars and everything, you know, from the beginning. And yeah, for the years when he was writing stuff, I mean, dude was working 7 days a week and like 12 hours a day. Like didn't take a break. It was an absolute machine. But, you know, he has all these kids that he's adopted, and he missed a lot of them growing up. So yeah, let him retire. The thing I'm mostly interested though is people ask what he was going to do, because movie making is what he loves to do. That's what he loves to do more than anything else. So in an interview, he said that he would continue making movies, just people would never see them. And I need to know, what is he doing back there? Like
American Graffiti 2.
Shout out to Pod One's podcast on the TikTok side. Look at all these amazing people. We appreciate you, Pod One's podcast. I don't know who's speaking right now, but it's most likely the Egg.
Mr. Egg.
Let's see here.
Not to be confused with Mr. Eggy.
Lowrider says, but I mean, there are people who are saying that since the creator of the Acolyte is a female lesbian, it is woke stuff like that. That is mostly what I'm talking about. Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, listen, those people I don't really care for because that's what they wake up thinking about. I mean, I don't.
Well, also by their definition, like they don't realize how woke, quote unquote, George Lucas is and has always been. You know what I mean? Like people were mad at him where he lives because he used his own money to fund low income housing where he lives. He's constantly has been donating tens of millions of dollars for underprivileged groups to have scholarships and stuff. He's self-funded the Red Tails movie because Hollywood wouldn't fund a movie with an all-black cast. Like he's, you know, but
he does what he wants. You know, I think he's always been
he's a hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just a big hippie who just ended up successful, you know?
Just picture George Lucas. Hey guys, how you doing? Peace sign.
Yeah. I always fall back on just asking those people what is woke to them, and it's never the correct definition.
Even if you get a definition, or like most of the people I've come across don't even say a definition. They just say, "Well, you could look it up." It's like, no, you look it up.
They're like, you know. You're like,
it's you know you get to those people where woke is just everything that they feel like is leaving them behind. But you know, I always contend that the opposite of that is sleep. Like, would you rather just bury your head in the sand? But like woke in general, since its inception, was the awareness of social injustice. So what you're really against is just people getting fair and equal treatment. It's like, and it does come down to that when you get down to the brass tacks in the conversation. It's like well, like wasn't America built on the pursuit of equality? All are created equal. And then like, yeah, it's like, so all they want is just equality. They're not trying to make you gay. You're like, yeah, but like I'm scared. Like whatever. That's essentially where the conversation goes from there. Shout out to Master James Kenobi on TikTok. Shout out to Marianne and someone who's returning from the fold. Okay, Stanzi says he can make as much tube top content as he wants now. I want to see that content.
Speaking of tube top content, and somewhat unrelated, but X-Men 1997 is a banger. Like,
Ooh,
man,
we
they
need
put
to talk
some
about that.
they put some respect on Cyclops' name in this, which I'm here for.
Yes,
he's still the same Boy Scout, but he's just so much cooler now.
Well, really quickly, shout out to K Stanzi. He says he donated the entire $4 billion he made from selling to Disney to charity. Do we have numbers for that? Do we have any confirmation? I know he's been philanthropic, but
so I don't believe he donated the entire. I believe he donated all of the cash that he got, which is half of it. The other half was given to him in Disney stock, and that's why he remains the larger shareholder.
Gotcha. Shout out to Marianne in the chat as well. Hello, Marianne. Let's talk about X-Men
Marianne,
really quickly. The last time I remember X-Men TAS, Cyclops was a wussy. and watching 97, they brought Wolverine back as well, 1-to-1. He was always like I don't dig the Boy Scout behavior or whatever. And then like Jean says something, he goes, "Oh, Jane." It's like that's the same Wolverine. But man, the first like 5 minutes of that of the episode 1, when Cyclops comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cringe. And then he like does some like Marvel versus Capcom moves. I'm like, hello, excuse me. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Like his like using
the way he
concussive
was
blast.
using it to move himself around, that was a new thing for me, which even in the comics now, maybe that's what he was doing in the comics. You just can't show that in picture, not well in picture form. But it also gives more credence to my favorite thing about him, is that, you know, it's not lasers that are coming out of his eyes. It's kinetic blast, concussive blast. And as we call it, it's the punch dimension. He has portals that open up to a dimension of punch. That's just what it is.
It's literally blasts of, oh yeah.
So the superhero
It's like
landing,
if Captain Falcon was behind your eyes.
the superhero landing makes more sense now, because that's literally a punch beam that he's putting down to the ground.
Yeah. He's literally, it's like a, you know, like a SpaceX rocket just kind of landing using its own propulsion, you know. But to be fair, his visor can make it even more deadly. I mean, he can turn it up to like 11 and really, like, it's like a lightsaber at some points. But that's not how he fights, you know. He's Cyclops. He's a Boy Scout.
Having the visor on with the backwards cap was kind of a interesting look.
Listen, that basketball scene reminded me of the original basketball scene, and how ridiculous that looked, and how, just all respect to the show and its origins, how horribly animated that was.
It was oddly animated. People were kind of misshapen and lumpy-ish. They also, this is the best that they've shown Morph as well, you know? Because before, they only had Morph. Morph doesn't get to imitate people's powers, but he can turn into someone with wings and fly. You know, that's not a power.
I think
it was cool.
I think the end of like as part of like the end credits, you know, when they do the whole like select the mutant and show their powers, they did say that Morph takes on their physical aspects. So in terms of like, you know, with wings, obviously you can fly with wings. It's not a superpower.
And then the best part, in my opinion, of the whole thing was when Cyclops was like, "Tell him the forecast."
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's when after he said that, and after that whole sequence, I was like, man, it's in the original style, but they're taking beats from anime. Like that whole.
Well, I mean, that's an anime studio that did it.
That whole sequence is like All Might just showing up. Dun, 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 dun. Man.
Yeah, that was Studio Mir, if I'm not mistaken.
Studio Mir's doing 97.
Yeah,
that explains it.
It explains a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so gobsmacked at how they're able to take their own personal kind of techniques of animation and transpose it onto the style, because it looks the same in a lot of shots just from the original.
I'm curious how y'all feel about Magneto's sassy shoulders.
I mean, it matches from, you know, what issue was that? 200? It matches when he had the same costume. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Nico Skywalker. Hello there. And thank you to Master James Kenobi for the heart meme.
I I appreciate them using a comic book suit. Like, I'm not really familiar with X-Men comics, but I know the big M suit was something in there. And but I didn't even notice the shoulders because of that giant M, and I think it kind of looked a little ridiculous. But only because it brings me back to a song that I had like when I was learning the alphabet as a kid of Mr. M, the Munching Mouth, and that's the song that plays in my head every time I see that suit. So it's kind of like a personal.
Let's see here. K Stanzi says people are giga mad about Gambit wearing a tube top in X-Men 97. I guess the only one allowed to wear those is Child Ahsoka. Listen, it wasn't a tube top. It was a cropped t-shirt. It's like, oh, you know what? I mean, if we think about 1995 versus 2024, there are a lot more people that are afraid of that flamboyant style. I will admit. Which is something so odd to say. Oh, back then? Oh, people knew that Gambit was, a little flamboyant.
It made perfect sense on Gambit too. That's what got me. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah. His hair is literally like so flashy. Of course he's gonna be like very, flashy.
I mean, remember his suit in the most recent Hellfire Gala? I don't know if y'all seen that, but
I did not.
It is spectacular. No, I don't know how we've gotten so fragile, because these are things that have always been around. They've always existed, and then now it's hurting your sensibilities. Like, what happened?
No clue. I mean, we've reached the point where our point of criticism isn't something story based or design decision based. It is literally like, why is he wearing a tube top? It's like, can you be more phobic? Like, seriously? Mithrellis on TikTok says, hello there. Think we will get any other recognizable characters besides Vern and maybe Yoda? If we think about who is on the council at this point in time and their age, we'll probably see Yariel Poof, Oppo Rancisis. I don't even know if we'll see them, but I just know they're on the council.
Potentially Plo Koon.
Yeah. We still haven't had canon confirmation on his age. I contend that Plo is on the Barash Vow,
Yeah. And what's interesting is, that's wrong species. Never mind.
What were you going to say? Mickey and...
No. I was going to say, with Vernestra, it wasn't before that they have a short lifespan unless they're force sensitive. But now I don't believe that was Mary Allen's.
No, that was Togruta.
That's Togruta.
I don't think Mary Allen's have ever been considered long-lived until now. So,
but we've never known. I don't think it's ever been a
it's neither here nor there type of thing, But now we have confirmation at the very least that, 232 plus. She's old now. How old do you think he is? I guess that refers to Plo Koon.
Who is? Oh, I don't know. Old enough. He's a very distinguished gentleman, So
look at that distinguished gentleman.
Potentially Shakti. So the lifespan of a Togruta is that of 200. It's human years. And if they're force sensitive, they can live up to 200. Now, I don't know if... I guess Shakti could... Yeah, she could potentially be there.
That would be such a funny character, because she's died... Like, it wasn't canon, but she's died like 3 times. And
yeah, she could possibly die again in this show. You never know. Let's see. Lowrider says, I swear I remember Choco saying the fact that the fact the Clone Wars made a Muslim-coded character bomb the Jedi Temple.
Yeah, no, it was uncomfortable for a lot of people. Still is.
Yes.
And we don't know what happened to her, right? Like,
We do. All we know. The only thing I've heard is at Star Wars Celebration 2015 at a panel. Dave Filoni said that there was more to her story. He said that they were going to make her blow herself up in prison with the same bots, and we're like, "Come on, guys!" And Dave said, "No, we're not doing that." And there's more to her story, so it sounds like he has a plan. He has an idea.
Yeah, there's more story to tell for sure. Loretta says, "Are Mirielans based on Muslims, though?" No, they're not. Vernestra as Mirielin does not present as closely or similarly to Barriss in any way. I just think in general.
But if you look
at
how both Barriss and her master were presented, they're very much where the garb of, and I believe the actual actor underneath is. So that was
although I think in universe that could be chalked down to master and apprentice. Like the master takes on Barriss, and Barriss took on a lot of what what's her name? Luminara was dishing. You know what I mean? You take a look at...
Well, it was culturally based, like for their species, and that's one thing the Jedi Temple does often is they allow their Jedis, if they choose to use whatever the cultural background they come from. That's why like Shakti dresses the way she does when not in there. It's very Togrutan.
It's why Aayla Secura dresses the way she does.
That's their excuse for it, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I see Vernestra, particularly how young she is, and she kind of learned under Creighton, right? And so, not Creighton. Douglas Sunvale.
Yeah,
Douglas.
He had like a
Master
regular
Doug.
name.
Yeah, he was just Jeff. But
My name is Jeff.
Vernestra isn't very Muslim presenting.
Yeah. Said, I think the names Luminara and Barriss are Arabic to cover their hair and everything, but I don't think Filoni did that intentionally, though. No, I don't think it was done intentionally, and I know it wasn't done maliciously. But they're just, I don't know, unconscious things that we can do that we should be aware of. That's all.
Vernestra's master was Stellan, I thought. That was after Douglas perished. Spoiler alert. And then soon after that, she was just like, "You're a knight now. You need your own. You need your own."
She got a Padawan and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that was one of our first introductions in Path of Courage. Their ship was
Test of Courage.
A test of courage. Their ship was attacked. Douglas was there defending, and Vernestra took the kids, and they jettisoned off onto, I believe the world was called something.
Okay, no. Yeah, well, they landed on a moon called something, and I can't remember what it is, but Master Douglas was Imri's master, not Vernestra's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Can we can we talk about Acolyte now? Relax. Relax. Sure, let's talk about the Acolyte. Okay, so just final thoughts on X-Men 97. Go ahead and watch it. It's incredible. The animation style is so nostalgic, yet we get Studio Mirror's incredible animation. I thought I was gonna cringe at, to me, my X-Men, but I was like almost tearing up. I'm like, man, he deserves this respect.
I feel like though when Magneto kept calling them my X-Men, I'd be like, man,
Get your
That felt like a slight to Cyclops a little bit.
oh
Like,
yeah.
no, these are my X-Men.
it felt like a old clip that we'll all remember from Chappelle Show when he's playing basketball with Prince. It's like, man, I am not on your team.
But yeah, it's a great show. It doesn't really require much to get into it. Again, it's just it is a spiritual, or rather actual sequel to the one in 1995, but they kind of cover that really well in the first couple of minutes. But I think my favorite part, I know it's gonna sound really minimal, but my favorite part is Jubilee looks Asian now.
Yeah. Before they're like, she's just ethnically ambiguous. Now, hopefully they put some respect on her name. 'Cause people are like, oh, she just makes little fireworks and sparkles. No, she detonates matter on a subatomic level. Do you know what that means? Do you know what she can do? It's
I
crazy.
mean, all you have to do is imagine what is happening when you detonate fireworks.
Yeah.
It's not just sparkles in the air. There's she's making that happen out of thin air. There's a lot of stuff going on there chemistry wise. Let's see here. Mithrella says Exegol and Sith Eternal connections in the Acolyte. I would love to see it. I find them very interesting. Let's talk about Acolyte now. We got the trailer this week. We saw a lot of Jedi for a show. A lot of lightsabers, a lot of different colors. It was tremendous. We got to see Trinity performing some Teras Kasi, and that's something that I said earlier in the pre-show. I feel like we are going to get a lot of Teras Kasi, because back then, as it pertains to like smaller threats and something that obviously was just not inherently a Sith in front of you with a lightsaber of their own, Teras Kasi was their martial art. It was for the most part they would go around being detectives or being diplomats, and when there was a threat they would dispatch them with Teras Kasi. They were not quick to draw their lightsabers. In fact, they always put it on the table, as Dooku says, to acknowledge they're not there to be lethal. So I'm definitely looking forward to...
Think about Mace Windu on Dantooine.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to a lot of hand-to-hand combat in this regard, but we get to know the subplot, or the plot of this, because I know the subplot is the darkness, but or not the darkness. The main plot's the darkness rising. The subplot is that someone is killing Jedi, and we're going to get to see, I think, what Choco has been waiting for, at least like a murder mystery type of investigatory detective story. What did you guys think? And we'll start with David really quickly. What did you think of the trailer? What stood out to you? And what are some of the things that you're excited to see in terms of either lore or story?
Well, I like the feel of the trailer being like a martial arts movie sort of feel. And I really liked seeing Carrie-Anne Moss. I can't wait to see her as a Jedi.
Yeah.
I especially like seeing Vernestra, because she's been one of my favorite characters in the High Republic.
Yes.
I hope she has a bigger part to play than just kind of being there and hopefully not getting unalived or something drastic.
Are we going to see the whip saber?
Yeah, no, I want to see that in live action also. Like that's going to be something where she's going to pull it out, but then like it's going to be,
flaccid.
Yeah. It can be this big moment of like
Is she a stand-in for... No, Githany was
Githany, right? Githany was human, I think.
I can't remember.
We call her Darth Sexy.
Needlessly. as is all sexy in Star Wars. It's needless, but people need it. So, let's see here. Mithrala says, "I love Shadows of the Sith, and I'd love them to try and give more background to Exegol and the Sith. I think for sure, for the most part, without actually being very explicit about it, we are going to get hints of Sith lore, and with the Darkness Rising, we're not going to get Plagueis. We're not going to get any kind of like overt Sith." But I feel like with the Darkness Rising, the Acolytes, or whoever is the Acolyte, is going to explore some Sith texts. Maybe find something that has like some of Bane's writings in it. For sure, there's going to be. I mean, this is why it is one of our most anticipated shows in Star Wars, because this will be one of the first shows. A lot of firsts. First of all,
I read afterwards that they're going to put some expanded universe stuff in there too, which I'm very excited to see what they put in there.
Yeah, which is why I'm like, we'll probably get to see some Bane stuff, some Plagueis stuff, but like, and we'll get back to the Plagueis in a second, but like, this is a first in storytelling outside of the Skywalker saga on screen. This is also a first dark side centered story. So there's a lot there.
But also, and this is the first that we're gonna see from Disney Plus, where they had a writer's room. A lot of these projects stopped having writers' rooms, and I think that has overall hurt the storytelling. And so that's one of the things I'm most excited about, is we had a writer's room, and Leslie Headland is a massive Star Wars head. Like, always been a huge fan, grew up with it, was a huge into the tabletop games. Like, that's how old school she is, and so that gives me a lot of excitement for what she would write and want to convey to people.
Yeah. Let's see here really quickly. This is a quick question. The Sith Eternal agents were like acolytes, etc., weren't they? So the Sith Eternal, at least in universe, were those that were still trying to uphold the Sith religion in secret for Sidious. But acolytes, at least in Sith lore, acolytes are those who served under a Dark Lord that were just their agents. They were not Sith, not yet at least. And we can go back as far as legends. There was a lot of acolytes, a lot of warriors, a lot of people who were not of the Sith. They were just acolytes, and that was their name for them. And that's why I urge people to tread carefully going into the show thinking it's going to be a whole bunch of Sith. The name Acolyte could very well just be this person is studying Sith and like studying the dark side and making their way towards becoming an acolyte of it, but not fully a Sith yet. We have a lot of factions out there that use red lightsabers.
A fanatic, yeah.
A fanatic, yeah.
I mean, in the Darth Bane books, Darth Xana was kind of going around and trying to eyeball who could potentially be the next apprentice, and she came across this guy who's an older guy, rich guy, and he had underneath him all of these like acolytes and spies and stuff that were force sensitive, went to the different schools of the Sith before they were all destroyed, and those people were still out there, and they used them for their purposes and then murdered them all. But yeah, that's a whole thing that they've always done.
Yeah, and just to kind of talk more about the Bane books, like in general, Bane wasn't even a Sith when he was training in the academy. Like all of those people that trained in Korriban were acolytes. They were initiates, and they weren't ever proclaimed a part of the Order. Well, until they needed them on Rusan, but
Yeah.
like essentially they started training in Korriban, and they weren't even a part of Sith until they were inducted, and so lots of acolytes, lots of non-Sith going around. Darthman, shout out to Kenny in the chat, says hello there. My thoughts on acolyte is there's another witch coven. Hold the phone. Yes, I'm gonna make a video on this, but I'll let you guys talk about this and give your thoughts on it before I chime in.
Well, it makes me really curious because them being a witch coven leads me to believe, right? They're Darksiders. They may not be natural Force users, but in a number of interviews, Leslie Headland specifically says that there are no Night Sisters in the show, so it's something separate.
Thanks,
but
writer.
I'm in.
What about you, David?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, just as much as I'm looking forward to characters I know, I'm also looking forward to characters I don't know that could become characters I like that one. And just more, what I like about Star Wars and all this stuff with the different religious sects of like how people treat the Force. And we're going to see like another facet of a dark side, witch coven potentially that worships the Force differently.
Yeah.
And that line she says, it's about power and who gets to use it.
That makes me think back. This is the thing that I was going to chime in with, and I'm wondering if this is a dyad moment, because I originally made the connection with the mother of the Path of the Open Hand, right? Which turned into the Closed Hand. And for those who are unfamiliar with Phase 2 of the High Republic, it is a cult that sees the Force and thinks it should be free, and that no one should ever be allowed to use it. And when Jedi come into the path and they're using it, and they're like, no, what have you done? And so it's like you're thinking about a cult that thinks no one should be able to use it. And then we go all the way to this time in Acolyte, who says it's not about good or bad, it's about power and who should be allowed to use it. And I feel like this is a spiritual successor to the Path of the Open Hand, and it's a witch coven because the mother was force sensitive, and so I feel like this mother is in fact like a spiritual successor to the Path, and that is exactly what she's talking about. Like, she is enacting and she is enabling acolytes, or the acolyte, to be like, listen, these people shouldn't be using the Force. It's an abomination. It's an aberration. You need to deal with them. And that's why I think we see in the Smuggler's Den, she's going after a Jedi who's clearly using the Force, but I don't think she's willing to use it just then. I think that's the crux of this first season. I think she's going to be fighting these Jedi with martial arts and trying her damnedest to appease the mother of this cult, and she's gonna find out, nope, you guys are wrong. I need the dark side here. So was that a dyad moment?
I mean, pretty close to it. I was actually, my comment was going to be, yes, especially when you see the pose she's in, it was the same that the mother was drawn in. So yeah, I absolutely believe that they're a spiritual successor. Maybe they put a dollop of like the Order of the Ninth Door or whatever, a dollop of that in there.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking of the other line that that Leslie Headland was saying, that the Jedi in this are considered the big organization, and the Darksider is the underdog of the story, and how the tables are kind of being turned from a story perspective. And I can't wait, because you said this is going to be an instance where you understand where both sides are coming from, and I'm curious how they're going to do it.
Yeah. What about you, Dave?
And I want to see legitimate criticism of the Jedi Order because I actually do enjoy it. I just hate when it's random stuff that's not true.
Yeah. The number one most frustrating one being that they're responsible for the fall of the Jedi in the prequels, or they're responsible for Anakin falling.
The one I keep getting,
kidnap children.
the one I keep getting is they shouldn't be political. They should have done this, and the thing they suggest is like super political or like overthrowing a government and stuff like that. And you're like, you don't understand? Do you not see like? Okay.
Well, speak on this because I did see a recent video of you and Alan, and this is a really good analogy too.
Yeah, I mean, it was Master Allen explaining the same stuff we always do about the Jedi's role and like the level of blame that they carry versus what is actually their responsibility. And so one of the comments said, "Oh, so the Jedi are like firefighters in a world where the police refuse to arrest the arsonist." And that's exactly it. They are constantly cleaning up these messes at the end of the line to prevent, catastrophic loss of life. In instances where the whole problem started because there's a corrupt politician doing something stupid and shady, and they let this problem fester and it blows up. And who's going to? You're going to let these people die? No, the Jedi are going to step in and do what they can to help, and that is what continually got exploited.
Yeah. And it's always, it always falls back on that notion of how much power should the Jedi wield in order to enact all of these things you want them to do. I mean, yes, they did destroy a slave empire, but like in the prequel times, people are wanting them to be essentially dictators, to end everything, to prevent everything, and that's just not their onus in the galaxy.
I mean, they have to act in a way that helps people, but they also have to like not start a war.
Yeah.
Themselves. Yeah.
It's essentially like when you show up to Nal Hutta with like a contingent of Jedi. Like, you're just gonna? Oh, these guys are definite criminals. This is like a whole cartel. We should just take them all out and then start a war with the Hutts. No, they're always trying to negotiate their way through things. It's like they can't really just go out there and be. We'll return to this when we get to the hot takes. There's a lot of hot takes to discuss. But Dave, what do you think about the mother, and what do you think about who the main villain will end up being in the Acolyte?
So I like the idea of it being an offshoot, but I know what I just said earlier about wanting to see different perspectives. Personally, I hated the Path of the Open Hand so much.
Yes, I did too.
Phase 2 was a little rough for me. I got through all of it. I've read the first book of Phase 3, and that's as far as I've gotten so far. Marta was constantly annoying, but then when she got like this idea to have the closed fist, I was like, all right, now we're getting somewhere. Then the book ended, and oh man, it was just getting to where I wanted it, and then it stopped.
Do you think that this may be? Because we already know that Marta Rose kind of ideology and hatred of the Jedi transfers to Markion.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it, this is further down the line, do you think that in the Acolytes, Mother Anastasia is sort of kind of trying to bring back the closed fist?
I think that would be an interesting avenue to explore if that's the direction they're going. Like I would like that very much for them to expand on that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking when I first saw the Path of the Open Hand, and they're like, "Oh, don't use the Force." I could never be a Jedi in that era because I do that thing that Aang does with the wind ball. But like, oh no, I'm using the Force right in front of them.
No one. We can't even use the Force and still try to use the Force. It's an everyday occurrence. Like, well, at least for me, I might be outing myself, but every once in a while, I try. It could be.
Every single automatic doorway, I hold my hand out and go, "Oh, no one's watching, right? Because this is really weird looking."
Here's something I want you guys to comment on. This is another thing. Marianne says they even brought someone in who had never seen Star Wars. This is a very controversial thing.
Shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be.
Speak on it, Choco.
Yeah, I mean, it's something Leslie Headland has talked about a number of times. And first and foremost, it's not just the two of them in the writer's room. They have, I talked about some of the stuff that Leslie Headland really loves. But that also means growing up, she wasn't like a prequels kid, which is fine. She brought prequels kids in to be part of the writing decisions. She brought Clone Wars, fans in to be part of it. But yeah, she had someone there that had never seen Star Wars before, because she wanted to make sure that the narrative was always being questioned. She wanted to make sure that the things that hit hard and that touch people emotionally do so because that was actually earned as part of this show. And it wasn't just something assumed because you already have feelings about something, right? It was not artificially generated. And I think that's incredible because I stopped watching the show This Is Us because the second season felt so emotionally manipulative. That I'm like, you didn't earn this. You're just flip-flopping things to bring you from high to low to make that feeling, But yeah, she's trying to make sure that the emotional beats hit hard because they are truly earned by the show.
Yep. I mean, there should be someone in every writer's room that is making sure that the story stands on its own. I think that if, just like we say, the people with the most information create their own problems, when we talk about like a book that's going to be adapted or a show that's going to be adapted into live action, it's like, yes, we have all of the knowledge in the world. We're big fans. And so going into the show would be like, oh, you got to watch this or you got to read this. Like, we're creating our own problems. We really need to just go into it and watch it and think about whether or not the story makes sense to a person who doesn't have the knowledge. And so when you have someone in the writer's room who's making sure, who's that? And you're like, oh crap, that's right. Like, we're probably going to have to explain that, or we're probably going to have to nix it and try to make it make sense on its own. Let's see here. Lowrider says, you don't say the Jedi Order was 100% good because you and Element know they were not. I just think that you guys should blame them for things they honestly deserve to be blamed for. And for the most part, we try to be equal in this regard. I think we do blame the Jedi for the things that they did wrong. And I think the hardest thing for people to come to terms with is we don't blame the Jedi for the things they don't deserve to be blamed with. And so now it comes down to, what do you think that they are to be blamed for?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. Lowride, I would super appreciate if in the chat you would let us know some of the things that you think they should specifically be blamed for. But I mean, like, their involvement in the war, right? It was the better of two choices. Mm-hmm. Still a bad choice. Still their choice. And there's a lot of mistakes that were made. The fact that so many masters died on Geonosis, which led to premature promotions. That was bad. That was not a good thing. Now, of course, Palpatine did kind of demand that Padawans be added to the war effort. But there was, I don't know, I do think there's other options around.
Yeah, just to kind of like pad this conversation a little bit, Dave, do you have any kind of reservations about the Jedi, or any kind of things that you think that they are blamed for a lot, but probably shouldn't be blamed for?
I think that they're blamed for Anakin's fall a lot. Like, that's the most common one I've seen. And I think that was 100%. Like, I think that was 100% Anakin Skywalker at the end of the day. Like, that was his choice. Circumstances were against him, but that doesn't fall on the Jedi.
Yeah. Okay. So we have an answer from Lowrider. At least one example. They do have a part in Anakin's fall to the dark side, serving the Senate rather than the people of the Republic, ignoring the Qui-Gon about the Sith returning and not taking the Sith seriously.
Yeah, I mean, they should have taken the threat seriously. That's why they fell. They weren't prepared for that. Now, the thing about serving the Republic rather than the people, I do disagree with that. You know, we actually see, I mean, that goes back to the analogy of them having to pick up after the messes left by the crooked senators and stuff. We get to see that in Tales of the Jedi specifically, where, you know, they came in to mediate the return of a kidnapped kid, right? That's what they were called in for. They weren't called in to be necessarily to be senatorial muscle, but the thing that caused the kid to be kidnapped was a corrupt senator. So that's a case where they're not serving this senator, they're trying to save a kid, and that's just how the card's laid. But they were doing it for the kid, not for the Senate. That's serving the people.
Yeah, as far as they do have a part in Anakin's fall to the dark side, they do, and this is why when we approach these subjects, we approach it with measure, because in small part they do have a part in his fall, but are not fully responsible for Anakin's choices. A lot of people talk. So this is something that I say all the time too. People blame the Jedi more for Anakin's fall. There's way too many people blaming the Jedi for Anakin's fall, and way too little people blaming Sidious. And that's just because they're a larger machine than Sidious is in terms of like numbers. But like, yes, they do have a part in his fall. Are they to blame for it? No. I think the blame falls squarely on Anakin, and in large part to Sidious, because we were talking about this in the in the pre-show. Had Sidious not existed at all, the Jedi would have been able to take Anakin's shortcomings and address them properly. But you have to realize that the Jedi are entangled in a war of Sidious's creation. They're entangled in the dark side of Sidious's creation, and everything they try to do to assuage Anakin from making his choices, Sidious is on the other side manipulating Anakin to make the wrong choices, to prey on his insecurities and prey on his love for Padme. So had Sidious not been there providing that other side, they would have dealt with him like Elzar Mann. They would have dealt with him like any other Jedi that had shown shortcomings and flaws and temptations of the dark side. It is not new to them. Like, Anakin is not an anomaly.
Well, I mean, the other point of this is it's not a 9-to-5 job where you sit in a cubicle next to your employees all day. You know, they don't see him every day. They don't talk to him every day. He's honestly not their responsibility. And when he becomes a knight, he is acting on his own. And you can say they didn't help him with his shortcomings, and that's true. Should they have? I think so. But you can't help people that don't want help, that refuse help, that don't ask for help. That's a real thing. That's a real thing that happens to real people. My sister, I want to help her so bad. I mean, full disclosure, she's homeless right now. We hadn't seen her in a long time. Found an article about her. Want to help her. She won't let us.
So, and then
But what do you? Yeah.
So there's also a lot of implications, Lowrider, with your assertions that Dooku was right. What we see in the Tales of the Jedi, Dooku is already in the palms of Sidious's throws. No, he's already being recruited, for lack of a better term, by Sidious. And all of the points that he's making about the Jedi and the Republic, he is a part of. When they show in the Tales of the Jedi, he's about to kill someone, and then they're on Raxus Secundus. He is actively encouraging a mutiny or encouraging a coup. Does that mean that we think that the Republic was not corrupt? No, I think
they were super corrupt.
They were super corrupt, but Dooku was not doing anything about it. He was helping it.
What's funny is because you'll say people like, "Oh, the Jedi shouldn't be involved in politics," but can also turn around and say Dooku was right when Dooku quit the Jedi to get involved in politics. And you're like, you got to pick one. Like, you want them involved, you don't want them involved. Yeah. That's why I asked the question: should they be subject to the law or not? And like Dooku, the thing I think is really interesting, it's the very first episode of Tales of the Jedi, right? We see this destitute place because the wealth has been plundered by this corrupt politician. First episode of season 2 of The Bad Batch, we get to see the same exact thing on Sereno.
Connor super chatted a $2.51 ramen drop, £1.99 from Connor. I am so sorry I'm late. Please forgive me.
No worries, Connor. And I apologize. I need to message you as well. But yeah, back to what I was saying. Like, Dooku became exactly the same politician that he was fighting against. I think that's fascinating. He wasn't right though.
Yeah. So there's something else that I wanted to. Let's see here.
But yeah, I blame them for things that they're responsible for. Just some of these things that are being mentioned are not canonically aren't their responsibility.
Right here, not trusting Anakin and not helping him with his problems is a big reason why he looked to Palpatine. He didn't look to Palpatine for anything. He was friends with Palpatine. And
in fact, Palpatine sought him out.
Yeah.
And had always done it. And that's you can see that in Anakin and Obi-Wan and Anakin, the comic, where Palpatine just shows up at the Jedi Temple and he's like, I'm taking Anakin. And they go clubbing. It's super weird. but yeah.
One thing I want to get your guys' opinion on is not trusting Anakin. I don't think this is true at all. I don't.
No.
I think their reticence came from the fact that he was, what if he was the chosen one. But even then, in the Attack of the Clones, Mace was like, full steam ahead. He was believing in him. He's like, isn't he supposed to be the chosen one? And Obi-Wan is the one saying, I don't think that he's ready for this. He's like, but he's the chosen one. Mm-hmm. We should allow him to. I'm going into my Mace impression. It's like, we should allow him to do these things so that he can prove himself. And Obi-Wan is like, he still has much to learn. And then even Yoda in that scene was like, we should let Anakin do more. I don't have the full quote, but both Mace and Yoda are encouraging Anakin to be more of himself. and to not stray.
I think a big one is when Mace Windu says, "I don't trust him" in Revenge of the Sith, but like people forget, like that's you have to look at the context. He said he's too close to the Chancellor. I don't trust him. I don't trust him in this regard. That's kind of like saying, you know, you have some pie and like I don't trust myself around that pie. It doesn't mean I don't trust myself.
Yeah.
You know?
Master James Kenobi says in the TikTok, it's ironic he could save others from being corrupt but not himself. I mean, yeah, ultimately. I mean, at the end of the day, we blame the Jedi. We try to blame the Jedi fairly for the things that they are to be blamed for, but I highly disagree that the Jedi inherently distrusted Anakin, and they stacked the table, stacked the odds against him.
They specifically said that they did trust him to take on some of these extreme missions in the Clone Wars. Like, yeah, it was the exact opposite. And he was also asked initially to investigate the bombing of the temple because they trusted him. You know, Loretta says Anakin was one of the best warriors during the Clone Wars. Yes, he didn't train his Padawan to knighthood. And so that's implying, you know, training your Padawan to knighthood is one of the qualifications to becoming a master. But what is one of the first things we hear Yoda say? Wars do not make one great. Yeah. Being a great warrior in the Clone Wars means nothing towards being a master. It's not irrelevant. No one else on the council was elected because they were great at war. You know, and not only that, but his seat on the council
fell in like a half a second to city.
Well, and his appointment to the council also wasn't even his seat. He was a proxy seat for Palpatine. So like, yeah, that's if anything, the Jedi should have been more opposed to it, because that is literally politics trying to be involved directly with the Jedi Order, and the only reason they allowed it is because it provided an opportunity for them to observe Palpatine. But yeah, if you support him being on the council, then that's supporting politics being involved directly in the Jedi Order, which a lot of people say the opposite. But I just mean you gotta pick. You want to be political, you don't want to be political.
Yeah,
can't have both.
The one thing I do want to address is you have to also think about whose perspective you're reading into too far.
Hey, Joseph Barons, how you doing?
I know a lot of people put a lot of weight on how Anakin feels, but not enough weight on how the others feel. Right? It's always a question of Anakin, but it's not a question of what about Yoda. Anakin goes to seek therapy from Yoda. Doesn't tell him anything. He just says, someone I know is going to die. And he's like, someone close to you? Yes. And then he's like, okay, well, mourn them do not, miss them do not, you know. But if Anakin had like opened up to him, given him more information, and a lot of people blame the Jedi for not letting him initially go rescue Shmi. He didn't even ask for permission. He was on Naboo with Padme, and this is one of those Mandela effects. He
couldn't. He tried to. He couldn't. There wasn't an opportunity.
There was never a point in which they could have restricted him. Like, he was on Naboo with Padme. He had the nightmare and went off to Tatooine by himself. The only thing that we get from the Jedi Order is a dead Qui-Gon saying, Anakin, no! But that's just him saying, don't kill them all. It's like... So it's not even like, no, don't rescue your mom. Like, the Jedi were unaware of a lot of the things that he did, and people think that they restricted him from doing so. You know, this goes back to Dooku Jedi Lost when he's like, what would you have, when Dooku's like, what would you have done if I told you the truth? And he's like, and Yoda's like, we would have helped her. Like, but I don't know. I can't be held accountable for how you think I'm going to react to this situation. And so we go to like Brotherhood. Every time he talks to Mace Windu, Anakin's like, yo, this guy hates me, bro. He just wants to see me fail. And no one thinks about what Mace Windu is feeling. If we had more, oh man, this is why I'm excited for the Mace Windu book, because I just want one conversation where like Anakin goes off and he's like, oh, this guy hates me, and then like we get to see Mace's inner monologue, and he's like, what a good kid. Just like, that's a good kid right there. I think I'm trusting him more. So
No, okay.
Yeah.
Watch Coach Carter. That's Mace Windu. That's what it is. He's the coach who's like, and you're like, what? I'm the star player, and I'm gonna do this. And he's like, no, you're sitting on the bench. And you're like, what? You can't bench me? And he's all mad until he realizes, oh, he wants me to be a team player, and I'll grow and be a better person for doing this. Like, I don't know.
Joseph Barron's
that's how I see it.
on TikTok said, in the Yoda comics, Yoda is very sorrowful about a lot of his mistakes, and that's true. He's made a lot of mistakes, you know. But more often than not, I see people blame the Jedi for how Anakin feels from his perspective, but they do not see things from like a pragmatic point of view of like, well, they didn't like intentionally do any of this stuff. I think a lot of times Anakin felt that they didn't trust him. For sure, that's a valid feeling, but that's how he feels. It didn't mean that the Jedi didn't trust him.
I have more opposite, like opposing thought things that I hear. And that's, you can't both blame the Jedi for Anakin's fall and think he should have been a master. Because those are two incongruent. Either he knew enough and was responsible enough to be a master and lead people, or these other people's influence on him is so great that he was never on their level. Like, both of those are two separate things as well.
Yep. I think for the most part, Lowrider and anybody that kind of holds the same sentiment, you know, we try to you know, approach things with a measured response. It's never like, oh, entirely to blame here, entirely to blame there. There's some nuance to be had in this conversation, and for the most part, the Jedi are responsible for their involvement in the war. Are they to blame for the war? No. But again, like Choco said, it was between a rock and a hard place. Was it let the separatists run all over the Republic and let people die, or go to war? It was two choices that were bad.
Now, yep. I will say this. The Jedi could have stopped Anakin from falling to the dark side. They could have stopped him. But if, you know, not stopping someone from falling is not the same thing as letting them fall or causing them to fall.
Yep. Let's say some guy runs by you on the street. You're like, who's that? Someone's like, stop him. You're like, I'm not going to stop him. And they go off to murder someone else. You're not responsible for that murder.
That was Spider-Man's origin story.
I was like, is he doing this on purpose?
I was thinking about
Uncle Ben.
But in any case, you know, the people who feel guilty for, like Yoda, for example, for the mistakes they made, I'm pretty sure it's for the mistakes he feels he made. And it's not in any way, shape, or form to make a blanket statement that like Yoda had failed entirely. And this is why I often combat the notion that Order 66 was the Force balancing itself and killing the Jedi. It's like, no, that is a byproduct of Order 66. And and we get into conversations of balance in the Force. It's not number of Jedi, number of Sith, and all that good stuff. But yeah.
Master James Kenobi said, just ask my wife, do you think Anakin could be a master? No, he's too immature, she said. Which, I mean, we also have to remember at that point in time, he was already everything wrong with the Jedi. And I say that as in he had already murdered people who were innocent to the issue, right? I get attacking the same people that hurt his mom. It doesn't mean executing the women and the children, right? But he was already a murderer. He was already in bed with politicians, literally. He all by that time already. So like you also can't. I don't know. He did not at all have the moral high ground either.
This is also a good point from Kenny. Also, Anakin started to not trust the Jedi. So it goes both ways in this sense, right? And not to create an entirely new subject to talk about, because we do have to talk about the Bad Batch, but it's like just true. It's like he didn't trust him either, and that's when both sides, just like as Joseph Barron says in the chat, Sith were the ones at fault, and I feel like with Sidious creating the war, creating the corruption, creating everything that was wrong about everything.
Oh, and intentionally causing the rift between Anakin and the Jedi.
Yeah. The Jedi were only responsible for the poor decisions they made in the face of all the city that Sidious had created. But had Sidious not been around, they went through 1,000 years of peace, you know, with a little conflict here and there, you know, with Markion and stuff. But it's like that didn't see them fall and like see the Republic fall. So essentially Sidious is kind of the machinist behind putting the Jedi in horrible situations and forcing them to make horrible choices, and the Jedi did make horrible choices. But yeah, it all falls back to Sidious. I think, you know, he's the Phantom Menace, for crying out loud. Yeah.
But how about that Bad Batch?
How about that Bad Batch? Let's move on to the Bad Batch. We're excited for the Acolyte. Can't wait. June 2 episode premiere. We get to see. I did want to put this thought out into the Cosmic Force. I believe that is the Banshee Temple. If anybody's read Edge of Balance, the manga, that is an island enclave as well, and it is situated cliffside. So I'm hoping Lily's not going to be there. Dang it. It's too far. Anyways, Bad Batch episode 8, what is it called? Bad Territory.
They went to Space Florida.
Oh my gosh, was it so much? What was it? Alligator-potamus?
Hippogator. It was hippogators or allopotamus. I don't know.
Yeah.
Crocopus.
I did go back to our. This might have been a Dyad moment. I'm not sure. Did you watch our reaction from episode 6 and 7, Choco?
I did not. No.
I went back. I was editing both because I fell behind, but I did in fact call Fennec Shan. Like at the very end of my reaction with Cal, I was like, I feel like they're gonna go to Fennec Shan and be like, you have info, let us know what it is, right? And then like we reacted with Choco to this episode, and he's like, I'm calling Fennec Shan, they're gonna go to her for info, and then during the reaction I'm like, dang, that's good. And then like he was right and was like, dang, Choco's the only one that's right. I forgot I said that completely last week. And so complete and utter Dyad moment. Thinking of the same thing. So,
as per usual.
In this episode, Dave, what did you think of this episode? Just entirely.
I liked it. I mean, it's, you know, it was an episode that had like the problem in the middle and then stuff for like the main plot sprinkled around it. I really liked seeing Fennec Shand again. Wondering who that is she talked to at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, who is Fennec Shand's contact? That's the big question right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Asajj Ventress, but it could be someone completely different.
I'm gonna say it's Quinlan Voss.
See, I would go with Mara Jade because I'm in denial and I want her somewhere in there.
Yeah, the Mara Jade watch. Shout out to Tinker Toys and Lincoln Logs. That's such an awesome name. Bad Batch of Dynasty Asajj. Do you think the ending was finally her entrance? Interesting to think.
I think she was talking to Asajj. I think Asajj knows more about AIM accounts than anyone else, and that's who she would reach out to.
Yeah, I think she was a target, right? She would have been a target. That's why Fennec.
I thought she was going to be the target, but they went with stick bug forearms.
I thought Fennec said he, right?
Yeah, she said he. But before she said he, I was on. That's the train I was on.
Yeah, you guys should. For those of you on YouTube, you guys should check out our reaction to the latest episode. I said, man, he's so hard to catch, and they're hunting M counts. It's got to be Quinlan. And then Hunter or Wrecker's like, who's the target? And there's like, Siler or something, and like it's a freaking bug. And I'm like, for sake. And then I threw my chapstick. It took me 2 days to find it.
Is that a clone of Asajj though, or is that actually Asajj Ventress?
Oh, we're getting into the weeds now. I don't think if they were able to clone Ventress, they'd be having trouble with Project Necromancer. Noisy Oatmeal says, love y'all's positive content. Please keep on making Star Wars content that my daughter and I can enjoy together.
Well,
I appreciate
awesome.
that, Noisy
Thank you.
Oatmeal.
That makes me really happy.
Doubly happy that you and your daughter are also enjoying Star Wars together. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the support. Appreciate you being here with us. Lothal Youngling says, dude, that praying mantis was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was also aggravating because it wasn't Quinlan.
No, but there's certain characters or I should say species in Star Wars that I'm always like, how do you fight them? You know what I mean? Like, he's a bug, he's got this exoskeleton, he can jump fast higher and further, and he's faster and stronger, and you're like, what do you do?
Yeah. Mari thinks she heard Asajj's theme when Fennec was talking to someone. Well, I mean, Mari does Star Wars music, so if she heard it, she heard it. And I think that probably answers our question here. So I'm guessing we're putting our bets in. I think Asajj Ventress is Fennec Shand's contact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tommy P says you use bug spray. That's true. Yeah. They just need a big old thing of Raid. Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, she says, yes, a youngling, but with regards to the parent and their daughter consuming Dyad content.
The force is strong with this one.
Noisy Oatmeal subscribed to the Dyad.
Hey, thank you for subscribing, Noisy Oatmeal.
Hey, thank you.
That's assuming that their daughter is a youngling. Young.
Yeah. They could be 80 and 60. You know, you don't know. Connor says, "Forgive me, I'm being stupid. How is she alive? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. All we know is they said that they will honor the book, and so I don't see how. I mean, actually, I do see a couple ways they could do it.
Marianne says, I may have heard it. May is key. Okay, she's covering her bases. Doesn't want to be wrong. Got it. Go ahead, Dave.
Ever since Ahsoka and that Inquisitor that turned out to be a green fart cloud, I have made this joke every time there's a mystery character, especially with those the X Trooper clones. It's like, is that a clone we know or is it a fart cloud? So it could just be like a projection of Asajj, and then she just poofs out of thin air. I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, they she gets a cut and Mephisto comes out. Yeah, bringing back Mephisto jokes.
That's the one that you were answering. Yeah, just to answer Connor's question, I think for the most part, if we reread Dark Disciple, the end of it, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but if we read the end of it, the way it's written around the sequence around the living waters, trying not to spoil it, the way it's written is suggestive that something could have been happening there that could result in what we get now in the Bad Batch. I don't think that it is explicit that she is one way or another at the end of that book.
Let's see. They could be youngling at heart too. Yes, that still counts.
Let's see. I do think that having the Sith that the fans want, like Plagueis, is dumb. It looks like they are hinting the Sith, though. Oh, you must be talking about the Acolyte. I don't think we're gonna see any overt Sith. I think we're gonna see hints of it and its ideology, of course. They're the foremost perpetrators in making people fall. We'll use Akaris as an example, where it's just a Sith tome, and she's like, "I want the dark side."
Yeah. Plus, it's a mystery, so it'll be unraveling. So I doubt we'll get any answers of anything up front. But also, Plagueis is at most 15 and likely still swimming around in his dad's coin purse.
Wow. What are the chances? No, let's go back to Bad Batch. Let's talk about Crosshair. So he's meditating now. He's trying his best to repair his trembling hand.
Okay, that last scene though, like the nurturingness of Omega, I feel like that's her power. Is she heals the inner wounds of clones. She's a salve for the soul. She's chicken noodle soup for the soul.
She is a big sister at heart, little sister in stature, but all of her scenes have been so wholesome, and it's so fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it's I think I've especially enjoyed how much Omega wants Crosshair's approval and is like imitating him here and there.
Toothpick, yeah.
Yeah, and Crosshair in reverse is so willing to go with her. Even he shows his his initial I don't want to do this, but he eventually he's all in with Omega's like methods and madness. And I think that's due in large part with Omega's ability to cross chat or cross talk Crosshair. It's like, I'm not gonna like this, am I? You don't like anything. Okay, fair enough. Like, I don't think there's any opportunity for Crosshair to say wrong to Omega.
Yeah, no, she's got all these boys now. Like, you can't say nothing. She's like, listen, we'd be there if you'd stop complaining. Like, oh, damn it.
Yeah. Joseph Barron says they did show a red lightsaber, and I'll just leave you with this: the red lightsaber is not a calling card of the Sith. We have, acolytes of the Beyond. We have a lot of fallen Jedi with red lightsabers who aren't, including Ren.
Yeah.
We also have Dagan Gera from Jedi Survivor. Bled his crystal right then and there. Lost faith in the Jedi Order. Wasn't joining the Sith, though. He had his own selfish motivations. So, yeah. It could be just another person from the Jedi Order at that time that is bleeding their crystal. It's like, I don't like this light side stuff. So it doesn't really inherently say that they're Sith. But we'll see. We'll see at the show. Youngling says, also, his soft smile when she said, "You don't like anything," and he says, "True." And then smiles softly down at Batcher. Listen,
He probably smiled because he said true instead of wrong.
and that's the thing too. That's gonna be in my head now because Choco, throughout all of our reactions, has always just randomly said wrong. Now I'm saying wrong for everything, and now I'm wondering going forward with the Bad Batch, I'm gonna say true. But I did just want to make one statement about Batcher. Like, that guy is a hoot.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in the toughest and most deepest of conversations between Omega and Crosshair, all you see is just him going. It's hilarious. So I guess
Batcher.
Mushroom.
yeah.
I had to.
So I guess with the shortness of these episodes, that's basically what happened on the Bad Batch. We look forward to who Fennec Shan's contact is. Of course, there's the prospect of Cad Bane, being the foil to Fennec Shan. And if Asajj Ventress comes into play, who's the foil for Asajj Ventress? Will they do the unthinkable and bring back...
Reynolds Wrap is the tinfoil. Sorry.
Will they bring back Admiral Enigma? Because...
It's such a stupid name. I'm sorry.
Do you think that in response to Ventress being presumably on the Bad Batch's side, who are they going to bring in to fight her? It can't be Cad Bane. Because Cad Bane would be fighting Fennec.
So, sorry, Master James said it will be the Yuuzhan Vong, but he said Yuuzhan Fong, and so now I'm just so now they're just Vietnamese in my head. and I love it.
They also say that Asajj Ventress will fight Zane Carrick.
I mean, Zane is losing that fight 10 out of 10 times, but I'm here for it. No, I think it'll be interesting. Well, so I don't think she's going to need a foil, right? Because to have a foil would imply that she's going to be a larger part of this story. I think she plays a small part. I think they get word of where she is, and they are hunting her down, but they're only hunting her to get information. Now, Asajj doesn't know this, and people are hunting her down, so she's going to be in attack mode. But once they clear that up, Misa thinking Desa being friends.
The unthinkable thing is Greedo killing Ventress.
No. Well,
Wrong.
you could still have Cad Bane, because Cad Bane has shown he can go toe to toe with Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, so the Bad Batch will be going up against Inferno Squad. Or Bug Eyes.
Now that you say that, right? We do know Cad Bane's gonna be into it. If we can assume that Asajj Ventress will be on the hit list,
Connor super chatted a $2.51 ramen drop. £1.99 from Connor. I want to see Gage.
that would actually be really cool. from Jedi Survivor. Yeah, she's a cool character. No, but I was saying if because we saw Cad Bane in the trailer, right? So we know he's going to be involved in some aspect. So there could potentially be a race to catch Asajj Ventress, and that's what we're witnessing.
So you're saying, in terms of what you said about her playing a small role, you think she's being hunted for the M count, just like all the other Jedi, and Fennec is her contact, but at the end of the day, it's just her being chased, right? And the Bad Batch help her escape, and it's not really like a larger narrative with her.
Yeah, I think after they're gonna catch her, she's gonna tell them what it is. They're gonna figure out what makes Omega special, and then they're gonna use that going forward.
Interesting. Joseph Barons on TikTok says, "Sorry if I'm being pretentious. I'm just think it's weird to focus on the red lightsaber." You're not being pretentious at all.
No.
And we always just like from the very beginning, we always appreciate discourse on this channel. And my response is not to say that you're completely wrong. It's just I don't think and we can disagree on things and move on from there. There's nothing wrong with that. I do think we'll find out when when the Acolyte drops, for sure. There's no for sure way to know.
We're not trying to silence anyone, by the way. We're just the people with microphones on the podcast. So like I feel bad because Lowrider hasn't commented since, and I was like, oh, did we come at him too hard? No, it was just talking about the topic. So apologies, Lowrider.
And if you guys ever want to come on to Dyad to talk about these things, let us know. We'll have the conversation with equal audible power.
Yes.
Let's see. Kenny says, "I think she's helping Voss with the path to pay back with the debt with Kenobi." I also think so, Kenny. And I also keep up hopes that Quinlan will be a part of this in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's a flashback or not remains to be seen.
Oh, if they're shown as a happy couple on screen, I'm gonna lose it.
I want to see that. Record your reaction.
Connor says, "Oh, sorry."
I'm gonna record mine, and it's gonna be disappointment.
Connor says, "Why do my darn super chats always timed at the time Choco starts to talk?" It's because I'm like 7-Eleven. I never close my mouth. It's always
Ray Palmer. Is that Adam?
Yeah.
Ray Palmer says, "Master Element 7, you survived. Now you'll experience the full power of the dark side." Oh, no.
That's what I tell my wife.
After he says, "No more locked doors, gracias." I just don't want to be seen as the other fans. No, we don't see you as the other fans. I think so long as you don't come in here and start saying y'all are too woke, can't really be like the other fans. We appreciate discourse, we appreciate disagreement, and we will have those conversations. And I've said for the longest time with my content specifically, and I'll let Choco speak for himself, but I've never made content to make people like something. None of my videos are there to convince people that The Last Jedi is the best movie. I'm explaining what happened in the movie, and for the most part, whether you come to terms with it or not is up to you. Whether you like a certain project is up to you. All I care about is the lore and talking about Star Wars. And so, if we have to disagree, we're gonna disagree. But it doesn't mean you're like the other fans at all.
Yeah.
Ray Palmer says that's what she said. I guess to what Choco said.
Yeah.
Hello, JJ Skywalker. Are you a Skywalker or are you a Palpatine? Let's see here. Do you guys think Plo Koon, welcome to Dyad and the Force, Knights of the Force. Do you think Plo Koon will be an acolyte of the characters in the background? Kind of looks like him. Interesting that I didn't really get that. I didn't.
No, I mean, I saw. I didn't catch it while watching it, but I saw the pictures of it, and I gotta say, it does look exactly like him. I mean, listen, I know the back of that man's head. I don't know. Let's not talk about it. But like, listen, I've seen other Keldor, and they don't all look the same from behind, and this really does look like Plo Koon. So it could be, but it could still we didn't see the face. It could very much be just another Keldor. So
has there been other Keldor in live action?
Not in live action.
Because like I would love to see Plo Koon, but I would equally love to see a different Keldor, because it feels like how they're showing it in live action, Plo Koon is the only Keldor that ever existed. Like,
well, we had in the Old Republic comics, there was another Keldor that died like a pussy. Do you remember his name? He just got rocketed in the face by a bounty hunter. I don't remember his face, but yeah. I don't think in live action we've ever seen in any other Keldor.
Okay. For some reason, my brain is showing me a pilot Keldor. Not the one from the Aces in Resistance either, but I don't know where I'm placing it.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's not live action either. But you're right. There was a Keldor there. I don't see another Keldor. The only Keldor pilot I see is Plo Koon getting shot down.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Okay. He's behind.
I think there is a Keldor. There's a Keldor pilot in the Great Disaster that dies immediately. Which I don't know if Star Wars is trying to say something about Keldors. All Keldors in Star Wars get shot down in the air. Onyx, shout out to Onyx in the chat. Now there are 3 of them. Sometimes we have guests. Yes,
it is getting out of hand. Connor, what is your Darth Vader comic theory? Go ahead and toss it up.
There it is. That's his Darth Vader comic theory. Hey, yo. Knights of the Force says it would be really fun if it was Plo Koon. That's an entirely different thing.
No.
Worm from Dune vibes. Nope.
Why is getting out of hand? What? That's the quote from what's his name?
Sorry, I read it that way. Well, no, it's said that way. Never mind. It would be really fun if it was Plo Koon, especially if they gave him a different color lightsaber like he had in that one game. But I would love a new Keldor too.
Jedi Power Battles. Yes.
Love that game. So good.
Needs a remake or something. I love that game.
Worst camera in any game, but best game.
He said, "Come on, I meant Plo Koon." I know, but I read it as I'm seeing it. I read it live. And I was like, "Plo's Koon." It's just. I guess it sounds better if you say Plos Koon, but like Plo's just implies possession. But yeah, that's it for our Bad Batch discussion. We're looking forward to the next episode. We still have a lot of episodes of Bad Batch to get through. Last question to Dave, and possibly if Choco wants to, I guess, reiterate himself, because we've talked about this in the past. What do you think, or how do you think? Okay, let me rephrase that. If Crosshair's trembling is fixed and repaired, how do you think it happens?
If it's been shown to be psychological, so there's probably going to be a moment where, say, like Omega's in danger and he has to be a good shot, and like he has to believe in himself, so he like meditates there, takes a deep breath. Like this whole sequence of events happens where he just makes every shot, and it's just this awesome scene.
That sounds badass. I would love to see that. Just a bunch of like scav droids just descending upon Omega, and he's like, "No, wrong, wrong, wrong." Just like a callback to Tombstone when Earp is like, "No." That's pretty cool.
And then when he gets the final one, he's like, "True."
Done. Okay, Connor, he goes. In the Vader 2017 comic, we see a list of all the Force-sensitive people in the galaxy, including Charles Soule, with his name backwards, Elus Selrak. And that's what Pete Pops wanted to have, but has had to use different techniques.
Like he wants those specific people's DNA for some reason.
Just hearing that he's putting bounties on them all made me think that's why he wanted the list of all of Force-sensitive peeps.
I mean, he did specifically say these were the most dangerous people to have out there, and that could have been, it could be related. I'd be into it. Half of that list was like writers and stuff on it, so I would love to see them actually get character designs.
Jackson says, "Okay, I'm back. The child is asleep. We talking Bad Batch? We were talking about Bad Batch. We're kind of done with it. We're gonna move on to a small little kind of decompression segment as we wrap up this episode of Dyad in the Force. Hot takes. Now, if you have any specific hot takes that we can quickly kind of react to, let us know in the comments. But I do have some hot takes from X. Let's see here.
Marianne says Pictionary.
Okay, this one is from Daxon Download. A well-trained Sith is worth 5 powerful Jedi. Their training is better, their conviction is stronger. It's the infighting and betrayal that ruins them, or they would be an unstoppable evolution. To which I say, a Padawan defeated Darth Maul. It's really tough to take that. I don't know. I mean, that is a hot take, but like, it's really tough to kind of, you know.
Okay, no. Well, David, what do you think?
Kind of like what Pep said. Like it's circumstantial. I feel like because like Obi-Wan beat Darth Maul because Darth Maul was cocky and really sure of himself and really sure of his power, and he lost because of it. It's all with the skill level and stuff. I don't necessarily think that a Sith is more powerful than a Jedi, but again, there's different levels of. It's all circumstantial.
Another
So
example?
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Another example. Now, it's up to you whether you think they're a well-trained Sith. But I know Maul is a well-trained Sith. He defeated Qui-Gon. But even in the episode where Adagalia dies, Obi-Wan is fending off both Maul and Savage. Like it. And then, of course, in Legends, Khal Sandarik defeats Vindican and his apprentice. Like, it depends on who you think is a well-trained Sith. But there's a lot of instances where Sith are felled by Padawans and felled by, in a 2-to-1, a Jedi. And then there's situations where a Jedi or a bunch of Jedi is felled by one Sith, like Malgus. But at the end of the day, it's like you pick and choose which ones are emblematic of the Order's martial prowess.
Yeah, so my mind goes to what is it? Superman Apocalypse? Was that the movie?
Unsure.
Superman, Batman, Apocalypse. At the end of it, Apocalypse shows up on Earth, and then Superman just starts beating the hell out of him like you've never seen before. And he even says, he's like, oh, this feels good. Like normally I don't get to go all out. I have to super pull my punches because I'll break everything here, but you can take it. And then he just starts like get more and more powerful. I think that's the Sith advantage against the Jedi. I think that a Sith can be effective against 5 Jedi because these 5 Jedi don't want to kill him. Mm-hmm. These 5 Jedi have never tried to kill anyone and are only looking for opportunities to incapacitate or to knock him out or to resolve this peacefully, whereas they are looking for opportunities to cause maximum amounts of damage to him, and that is a limiter that's being taken off. Now, you put a Jedi against the wall and get him in a desperate situation. Some of those limiters are going to come off. You know what I mean? So, I also, if you look at like Vader versus Carrick and Fila, he was getting his ass beat until he threatened to flood the city and murder all the people. So that's the other Sith advantage.
Yeah, they're more willing to fight dirty.
Yeah.
Palpatine versus the 3 Jedi too is the thing I thought of during that. Like,
yeah, attack lightning fast before. I mean, everyone looks like a joke in the movie because it was choreographed terribly. But but when you read that scene in the novelization, oh man, it's chilling because Palpatine asks Agent Kolar a question, and he starts to respond. And Palpatine is already across the room and killed him mid-response. And you're like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And that's another great example. Sidious versus Mace. Like, sure, he mollywopped the other Jedi with him, but Mace is a well-trained Jedi. Sidious, being the most powerful Sith there is, he holds him 1-to-1, and he even disarms him. Yoda disarms Sidious, and it's just a matter of Anakin making that choice to betray Mace that the outcome was achieved. So Texas, I knew this wasn't going to be a hard argument, but I will die on my self-destructive side. I mean, I think in general, the general notion is that the Sith it's like quicker, easier, more seductive. They're more willing to do whatever it takes to win. And the Jedi are constantly held back by their ideals, to, uphold the light. And so when we are faced with people who are not held back by that, Kausen Darek, the Battle Master, Battle Master Kirak and Fila, Mace Windu, one of the top duelists, like they will hold their own. They don't have any reservations to that degree. Yeah. Even Yoda could have killed Ventress right then and there, but chose to not only take her sabers, but said, "Child, you're not ready," but give them back.
I would have been like, I'm confiscating these till the end of the day. You can put them in the office.
Yeah. I just think more often than not, if all things equal, 1-to-1, it just depends on who's more skilled, but at the end of the day, the Sith just more willing to fight dirty, more willing to do whatever it takes to win. And they will win more often than not because of that, but then again, it doesn't jibe well with the infighting. So they did lose at the end of the day. Let's see here. Would you say Tom Hiddleston should play a younger Palpatine in Acolyte? No, because he's not even born
He's
yet.
not born yet. So Palpatine is already age 50 in episode 1. Yes, but this is 100 years before that.
I'd say a young Palpatine would be Timothée Chalamet.
I don't want Tom Hiddleston because I don't want to see Palpatine thirst traps.
No, but listen, you can't deny that young Palpatine was a looker. He didn't always look like Ian McDiarmid. Come on.
Well, also, Ian McDiarmid didn't always look like Ian McDiarmid. You know?
I mean, nah, he's a good-looking guy. All right, the next hot take, final hot take because we're running out of time. The Sith. This is from @themanslayer66. The Sith goals / frustrations are more closer to humanity than the idea of letting go and flow with the way of things.
The Sith goal is more in line with probably Western capitalist ideology. Yeah, I think that was George Lucas's point. And the Jedi are just Buddhists.
Yeah, I think in general there's no real way of saying Buddhists and pacifists are,
not human,
not close to humanity. I will say for the most part, if you look at the Sith code in general, it's seemingly harmless. But if you look at what it represents in tandem with the mysticism of the Force and the dark side, it is an endless loop of a power that feeds on itself. Actually, this is a great time to pull up my
Yeah, no, it more closely matches the ideology of crackheads.
Addiction, yeah.
So, because the reason I bring up Bane is because he's quite literally a huge figure in the Sith. For all the people that think that Bane was very innovative, he was very obsessed with the ancient ways. And I had to pull up my notebook from Kindle. And I highlighted this passage from Path of Destruction. When Bane is realizing the endless cycle that is a power that feeds on itself, he realizes if the dark side is fueled by passion, and passion is fueled by the dark side, emotion brought power, but that power increased the intensity of the emotions. The more he drew on the Force, the more his emotions would control him. The stronger a person became, the less rational he would be. It was inevitable. How was it possible to contain or control a power that fed on itself? In this are the shackles that bind the Sith, the ruse. So, essentially, you give up the shackles. Well, I wouldn't call them shackles. You give up the shackles to, I suppose, not be held back by personal attachment, and you're being controlled by your emotions, but then you are shackled by those emotions because it feeds on itself in a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, do you guys have any more insight as to the Sith goals? The Sith goals are victory, which means you're going to be trying to conquer everything, no?
So the Sith goal, I mean, truly at the core, it's selfless versus selfish. That's what it is. And so the Sith ideology is just ultimate selfishness. So you're not bound by other people anymore, but you only care about yourself and getting more and boosting that, and that just doesn't lead anywhere. And in the chat they said Buddhist military generals. So literally the Jedi code is just Zen Buddhist and samurai code. I mean they're space samurai is what they are. Now, again, you can say, oh, but they became military generals. That's the problem. Like that's the point. They weren't supposed to be that, and that's why we ended up where we did. So yes.
Yeah. We will be filming a lot more of our reactions to hot takes as we collect more. It'll be a new series on this channel, Dyad and the Force. But we are out of time. For this episode of Dyad of the Force, I want to thank David Xanatos from the Gargoyles for being on. David, why don't you let everybody know where they can follow you and your content on socials?
I am Xanatos1138 on all social media, mostly TikTok. I've been working with Nerd Initiative, and I don't just do Star Wars. I do Doctor Who, Marvel, lots of pop culture stuff.
And pop culture.
Yeah. So check out the Nerd Initiative page also, because there's a lot of great creators on there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Eric on TikTok said the chick up top could get it for sure. Yeah, I agree. I could. Let's see. Choco, any final thoughts? Any final words?
This is fun. Yeah, but we need to have more discussions, so please send in your hot takes, any and all hot takes, so we can react to them, have discussions, break them down, provide sources and stuff, and bring it on. Yeah. Also, Dragon's Dogma 2 is great, and I'm loving it.
I just started it today.
I created my very own Saguk, or Korean period drama hero. It looks like a K-pop star, but in fantasy setting. I also created the pawn that I created. Also was like just a natural K-drama love interest as well. Mm-hmm. I kicked the troll in the back for first time into a bow shot, and I was like, that was so cool. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of Dyad in the Force 164. Send in your hot takes on X at Darth Choco 7 or at _element7_, or leave them anywhere in the comments below in this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But that's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life,
we are all Crosshair and Batcher.
Yes. And the Jedi made mistakes, but they're not responsible for Anakin's downfall. May the Force be with you.